No audio? Yeah, thank you.
Shall we start, sir?
Yes, perfect. We are on dot. 11:02, 2 minutes over.
Good morning to all of you. Hope you can see the screen that I'm sharing. So can you see the screen that I'm sharing, sir?
Only the Zoom background is there. I mean, the screen is not.
Sure. Yeah.
We are not getting the blue and gray. And the topic speakers not come.
Uh-huh. One second, sir. Can you see the screen, sir?
Yeah, perfect. Now perfect.
Okay. Good morning to all of you. Thank you for registering, and we have almost 1,060 registration today, and we have people now logged in almost 200 plus, and we are starting now. And this is our next Saturday series, that is the strategy and evacuation as per the international standard called NFPA. About me, myself from Blue and Gray, we are a team of very passionate fire and security automation domain, and we have office in Singapore, India, in UAE. So I'll just run fast, learn everything. Learn everything that is good from others, but bring it in and in your own way, observe it. Change the system for good, do not become others. This is by Sri Swami Vivekananda. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm a founder of Fire and Security Action of India. I'm a son of a firefighter with 33 years of experience. So my passion started at the age of 5, and I love this fire subject. And I just want to take you to the facts of life in India. You know that we have recorded 68 deaths every day due to fire accidents in various parts of the country. And out of that, 47 female and 21 male die every day in India due to various fire accidents. On average, the fire brigade get 641 fire call per day. And also another statistics that one death every 4 minutes due to fire accident, for the road accident. Another sad part is 848 women are harassed, raped, killed every day, and 4 rapes per hour. These are the average statistics when it comes to safety and security. And the worldwide death due to unintentional injuries are expected to grow by 56% between 2015 and 2030, from slightly over 3 million to 4.5, almost 5 million people a year. It's estimated more than 90% of death worldwide that results from injuries occurs in low and middle income countries. And this is our India Status and Happiness Report, which came in Types of India. So, India, which means 80% of Indians are not happy in their life. How do we make them happy? So, I always strongly believe safety should begin from home. So, if you start implementing these safety plans in your home and emergency safety kits at home, then the country will prosper and the country will become a developed country. Change should begin from you, ladies and gentlemen. And I'm sure since you are taking part in this webinar, you are a believer of that. I no doubt, and ensure that whatever we learn today, it is practiced in our life every day. Today we have our very important keynote speaker, Mr. V. Suresh, who was very passionate and is a civil engineer from Anna University with over 53 years of professional experience in housing, infrastructure, rural, urban development, and built environment sector. He is the current chairman of Indian Green Building Council and is the vice chairman of National Building Code. The awards and recognition are over 25 to 30. So I've just mentioned few of them on the slide. And you have the speaker of the day, the young Santosh S. Warik, Chief Fire Officer and Fire Advisor to Maharashtra Industrial Development Corporation, and also the Director Maharashtra Fire Services. He is a science graduate, an engineer, and a financial MBA graduate, and also the law graduate. You know, unbelievable, very rare you find a fire officer with multiple talent. He has 28 years of experience in the field of fire prevention and protection. He has served in various positions in MIDC Fire Services. One of the architects in drafting India's first Maharashtra Fire Act, an expert in firefighting of various occupancies, implementation of fire prevention, life safety measure as per the National Building Code. He has successfully handled various industrial projects, especially at townships, special townships, SEZs, and IT parks in Maharashtra. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Mr. V. Suresh to give opening remark. Sir, over to you, sir.
The audio is fine?
Yes, sir.
Wonderful. Very happy. Good morning to all your distinguished participants. It's such a pleasure to be there today morning before Santosh Warik makes the substantive presentation. In particular, I came in over there because I've been associated with the building code right from the first version, which came in 1970. We used to work in 1966 on that. And then we had the next version came in 83. Then in 2005, the next version, and the latest version is 2016. My association has been there right from the first version till the latest version, where I'm now the vice chairman for the National Building Code Committee. And in particular, in the whole National Building Code, if you see, parts 2 and 3 are the most important one on administration, development control rule, and general building requirements. That's about backbone of all building regulations, all cities and towns. Balance 20% will be covering the fire safety in part 4 and the structural design coming in part 6. So therefore, you're talking about the backbone of the whole building regulation, where all the space to be done within a plot or up to the plot, everything will come in a 3-dimensional format in respect of not only the development control rules and the general building requirements. I'm sure a detailed presentation will be coming from Santosh Warik, most suited person to make this presentation. Normally, they would have talked more on part 4, but this is equally important. Unless part 3 provides that particular space framework, you can't get part 4 operated upon, because the very access to the particular plot, your width of the road to be done, and also the volumetric development of the building in terms of the heights, the area, setbacks, heights, the FAR, FSI, and the density of development, all of them are covered in the part 3 component, and the zonation of the buildings in respect of the various occupancies which are there, and all this will come. So to very briefly take a, let me try to see in the next about 6 to 7 minutes whether I can give a capsule version of all the. Incidentally, this is done by the P1 panel number 1 for the National Building Code. There are 22 expert panels to deal with the 33 sections of the NBC, but part 2 and part 3 is looked after by the panel on administration and the general building requirements, of which I am the chairman of this panel. So therefore, contents of these are known without any notes in front of me, because we have been dealing with that. Primarily, what it tries to say that in a whole city development process that you come over there, you deal from the macro down to the micro. You got to have the network of your streets and your roads and other places with all the use occupancies coming for the master plan, as well as the various development plans that you have over there. You will have the residential occupancy, you will have the business occupancy, educational occupancy, you have the institutional occupancy of health, you will have the storage occupancy, industrial occupancy. All the asset classes of the building are classified, therefore, based on the use and occupancy classification. Very important. And therefore, and that's also linked with the amount of fire severity. Many people did not know this, that it's not coincidence that right from the first one, which is residential with the least amount of fire load, to the highest which will come in industrial or hazardous or storage occupancy over there, from a 1 hour fire to a 4 hour fire, depending upon the combustible contents of the building and the nature of occupancy that you have. So all these occupancies are given, which normally in a town planning way, or the way architects look at it, they look at it as only a building for residential or a hospital or a hotel or a office complex or an IT park or a retail mall, etc., etc. But no, it also has got an underlying component of how much is the fire severity and what can be the fire load in that particular building. Is it a 1 hour fire, a 2 hour fire, a 3 hour fire, or a 4 hour fire? Your fire catches up depending upon the contents within the particular building and depending on the nature of occupancy in a large way. And then you get on to, therefore, the types of construction required to deal with that particular fire. If you have a fire of 2 hours, obviously you want the wall as well as the column as well as the slab, which is the structural system, should have at least so much amount of fire resistance rating to deal with that particular one, to contain that, so that the structural integrity of the building is not lost, lesser than the fire load coming in a building on that. So the types of construction are identified, therefore, with resistance rating of for various members, column, beam, slab, floor, wall, etc., etc., doors, etc., will come in detail. You'll hear more on that. Once you've done that particular one, you have to deal with what can be permitted where. In fire zones, in a city where you're all hazardous storage, you don't want the residents to come over there, obviously. So therefore, your zonations coming, which are town planning zones, which are marked with different colors, they also look into these particular aspects so that you put only those type of things which are very high fire severity thing cannot be put as low fire severity. Zonation also is based on that. You'll hear about that. Then you come on at the level of the overall layout level, or at the level of neighborhood level, the starting with the hierarchy of roads which will come, the bigger road, wider road, smaller road, coming down from that to maybe 6 meter or 20 feet road. Then you come down to the streets as well as alley, as well as other places, because these are very important. Accessibility is very, very important to reach a particular plot. And therefore, you have all the requirements which come in dealing with that, or depending upon the nature of development. Obviously, the larger development is higher FAR and taller building has to be necessarily on roads which are wider, and you can't do that in a narrow road, because you can't permit that, because you're thinking in terms of all the occupants coming over there, the short, and you got to evacuate at the shortest possible time so that no damage comes to the building or the people coming in that, staying in that. So therefore, that brings you to the next level of all those requirements with the layout into the facilities that's required in terms of not only the residential need, your hospital needs, your education needs, school needs, office needs, market needs, etc. So they're all part of the initial component of the planning standards, which is provided depending on neighborhood level, population of 5,000, 10,000, 20,000, 60,000, 1 lakh, depending upon the population. How do you do the hierarchy of the spaces provided for that when you plan for that? Then we do everything that's required for reaching up to the plot. And then that will cover a very substantial requirement of the development control rules, including the nature of development. How much is the FAR, floor area ratio, depending on how much on area on all floors divided by the plot area, or Gujarat and Maharashtra will call it FSI, not FAR. Some states call it FAR, which effectively means the total potential. Up to how many floors can you go? Now you're dealing with 100 floors. I do remember when I started the building code work in 1970, the tallest building was a 13-story in the LIC in Mount Road in Chennai. But now we are having up to 100 stories buildings, 60 stories, 70 stories. So you're going to deal with the requirements to deal with those particular aspects on the spaces, the setbacks, front setback, side setback, rear setback, or the height of the building. You can have the setbacks increase. You don't require all of the ground level. While at the ground level, you require the space for the movement of the vehicles. Not only the vehicle moving around, the firefighting vehicles to come over there. Those are various details. Light and ventilation plane to be looked after. All these are very, very detailed requirements which covers on those particular norms which are required in the particular building. And these are covered in a very, very scientific way, very nice way. And for each occupancies, those details are to be brought in over there, and they're all brought in very clearly into the particular building code. Equally important thing is what has to be the height of the building with respect to the width of the road in front and the front open space. You also require that as a very important requirement of the codal provision and differential rates of FSI and FAR to be taken care of. And also you require the underlying facilities, the width of the road, the water line, your sewer line, your gas line, your power line. You can have very dense development with no infrastructure to back it up. You can have all that coming with so much amount of traffic flowing on the road, etc., etc. So they're all covered in detail in a very minute manner. Then we get on within the fire safety component on the building requirements. What are all the requirements, especially while the part 4 will give all the requirements of all the firefighting equipments and other related component of depending upon on a table, depending on a wet riser or dry riser or sprinkler, etc. Those will come in part 4 in detail. But the space requirement within your particular building and exits and related component, corridor, door width, and other related component, which are life safety related things, are brought in over there. And these are all buildings with the able people as well as disabled people or differently able people. Hospitals, people can't even move there in ICU, whereas in an office space, everybody's agile. In a school building, the young children. So you got to have all these requirements planned depending upon the way in which the health and the ability of the people to move around fast. Where evacuation is an important component. And therefore, this part also has got a very interesting table on differently able people. How do you deal with that? Physically challenged or other challenged one? How do you deal with access getting into from the main road into that? Parking is another major component which is there. It's also part of this particular thing. And then getting on to where we can provide this particular parking related requirement on the ground or in basements, what type of requirements can come. And these are all brought in a very detailed way. I won't have the time to open out in my opening remarks here. It's a wonderful document of a 3-dimensional space coming on area as well as height into the as well as story heights of the particular building, and at the same time provides the fire engineer, the architects most important, who are dealing with the space to be created on various floors. What are the ways you can deal with that? They're all covered in this particular frame of part 3 required. And what I'm very happy is that the latest version of 2016 National Building Code, I'm sure Santosh will open out on that. We have tried to make it most pragmatic, most open-minded, based on whatever rules are available in Singapore development or Shanghai development or Hong Kong development or any of the best cities. So you don't become coming in the way of development. At the same time, functionally, the vehicles are to move around, reach heights as well as area. How do you deal with those particular situations are very important. Graphically, he'll show you all the detail. My time is already running out. So all I want to tell is that you're going to enjoy the presentation, and I'm sure we look forward to very good question answers coming from all you practicing architects or engineers in different parts, including regulating people from the local bodies or fire authorities, etc. Please come up with your questions and post it on the question box. I'm sure we'll I think Dominic always does that, keeps after a presentation for 1 hour altogether. We kept about 45 minutes for the Q&A. There's a good opportunity to ask all your questions that you have where clarity is required. We are there to completely clarify all of them. All I want to do is wish Santosh all the best. I'm sure you'll do a a fantastic presentation. All I want to say is this is the most important part. As I said, the backbone of any building regulation, any city, anywhere in the world. This is the development control rules and the promotion rules and the general building requirements which are covered packed into this particular one. And therefore, most important, what kind of action document along with the fire protection coming in part 4 on that. On that positive note, let me say thank you very much, Dominic, for calling me over. I'm excited to hear what Santosh is presenting on this very, very important topic on the whole topic. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Wonderful opening remarks. You highlighted very important part of this building and for particularly for architects that what part 3 and part 4 talks about. And all of you know that we will be soon, next Saturday before Santosh coming on to speaking. So next Saturday, we are talking about national NFPA standards and best practices in strategic and evacuation. So this is for next Saturday. The keynote speaker will be our highly respected director of Goa, Mr. Ashok Menon, and we have a speaker from Dubai, Jensen Hughes. So this is for next Saturday. So over to Mr. Santosh Warik. He'll be taking us for next 40 to 45 minutes. Over to Mr. Santosh Warik. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dominic. And thank you very much, Suresh sir, for this nice introduction of the part 3, which is very important. And normally only architects, they deal with this part, but it is limited to the development control rules of every municipal body or the state jurisdiction. So I am taking you through the various provisions of part 3 of National Building Code, and my emphasis will be special cross-reference with the reference to part 4 of National Building Code, that is fire and life safety. So it is a development control rule and general building requirement provisions are provided in NBC part 3. So it is visible.
Yeah, very visible.
Okay.
Perfect.
So part 3 covers basically development control rules, including the various aspects of the building layout or the reservations of master plan approved by the city or by the state government. Then the land use classification, open spaces around the building, the area and height restrictions, means of escape, parking spaces. And also it covers the various general requirement for the building. The normally expectations of development control rules means provide guidelines for town planning and country planning so that the planned development is possible, so that various authorities working in the urban areas will get the facilities for transportation, then amenities, then various types of occupancies, reservations. This everything is planned by the local authorities. The state government has got authority as per the town planning acts of respective state to frame such guidelines. These guidelines are originating from this part 2 and part 3 as already highlighted by Suresh sir. The urban local bodies, it is a very important part so that the resources available in the city that can be accessible with ease, and it should be accessible from the various stratas, means right from the poor to the rich and from different age group. Specifically in this new 2016 part 3 edition, there is special emphasis is given on the barrier-free environment, inbuilt environment for the physically challenged people or disabled people, so that all guidelines are given as per the international standards, that is ISO 21542, which gives 2011 edition. So then the planning and barrier-free environment guidelines issued by Government of India, then harmonization guidelines and space standards issued by the Ministry of Urban Development Department in 2016. These all these guidelines are incorporated in Annexure B of the Part 3 of National Building Code, wherein barrier-free environment is created for all age groups and disabled people. Then important thing nowadays, we are talking about various types of transportation modes, maybe bus rapid transaction, metro rail, monorail, then ring rails. So these are provided or promoted by the state government and the central government for the reducing the carbon footprint, the pollution levels, then reduce the automobile uses in the city, and to have the means environment impact, minimize the environment impact, and to improve the livability and mobility within the city. So these transport oriented developments are happening by giving additional FSI around the metro rails or monorails or bus transit areas, wherein you can have the more parking spaces, more atrias, more common facilities, so that it can be easily accessible through this connectivity. Then rapid urbanization, if you see from 2011 census, 31.16% growth has been seen in urban areas as compared to 27.8% in 2001 census. And it is expected by 2021, it will be around 40%. So 40% of the population will stay in the urban areas as compared to rural areas. So if you see the number of cities, there were 7,933 as per the 2011 census, and which will cross around 10,000 in next 2 decades. So already 1 decade has passed. So the population migration from the rural to urban is a continuous process due to the rapid urbanization and industrialization in the country. Then if you talk about metro cities having population more than say 50 lakh as per the standards, there are 8 numbers of cities. If the other metros, mini metros, you can say 10 to 50 lakh population. So they are 45 in number, and 53 cities having above 10 lakh population by 2021. Means 53, it will come to around 70. So these are the prediction made considering the urbanization of the country happening in various parts across the country. So what are the key features already highlighted by Suresh sir in his keynote address, that various new things are included in this part 3. The definitions of various terms has been modified. The land use classification has been modified. The provisions of transferable development right. This is very important when you are talking about new infrastructure coming up like metros, underground metros, or any other facilities. And if the land is belonging to some person, individually they are owning it. And if we wanted to have that facility on his land, then you have to give him some benefit so that he can use that benefit somewhere else. So for that, every urban local body gives such type of transferable development rights so that the person can utilize it to the another place. The provisions of the podium, which is very important from the metros and mini metros point of view, where the parking is a major issue. And along the metros or monorails also, to encourage the public parking areas. So this kind of multi-level car parks and podiums requirements are coming up, and the provisions for the movement of fire tender on this podium and around the podium is incorporated. The planning norms, new norms are incorporated. The minimum clearance from the overhead electrical lines as per the electricity regulation rules 2010 has been incorporated. Then various ventilation, light and ventilation requirements for the basements are provided in this part. Then height restriction in the vicinity of aerodrome, that is approach to the airport and departure from the airport. The restrictions in within the funnel, what we call, they are given as per the civil aviation guidelines. Then the provisions for mechanized parking, various types of parkings, they are provided. Basement use is again modified. The accessibility to the building for elderly person and disabled, that I have already discussed. The solar solar energy utilization, they are included. So these are the some major land use which are provided in the part 3 of National Building Code: educational facility, healthcare facility, socio-cultural, distribution services, police, fire services, telephone, and other infrastructure, sports activity, shopping. So based upon the population and the number of citizens uh, in the city, their areas and their planning point of view, information is provided that we will see in after some slides. So another features are in the annexures. They have included the low income housing in urban areas, then the requirement for the rural habitat, then requirement in hilly areas. So these annexures are also incorporated in the part 3 of National Building Code. So we will see the basic terms what use in the part 3. The authority having jurisdiction, AHJ. This is one important features which gives this authority is by statute if any body has given powers to regulate the development or the with the act like Fire Act or development control rules or the planning authorities. So that is identified by the code as an authority having jurisdiction, and they regulate any development in that particular area. Then the definition of building height, which is normally measured from the vertical distance from the average ground level and to the flat roof or the terrace of the flat roof. Then in case of flat roof also, it can be how it should be measured, that is clarified in this definition part of the building height. Then the development, what this is very important from all disciplines basically. It is a grammatical version, means to carry out the building, engineering, mining or other operations in or over or under land or water on the making of any material change in the building or land or in the use of any building, land, and include redevelopment, layout of subdivision of any land, and to develop shall construct accordingly. So this is very important. It covers all, means below land, also below water also. So this definition is very clear for development. Then fire separation, from the fire safety point of view, it is very important. Normally the architect has been taught that the distance between the building or the marginal spaces are required from light and ventilation point of view. But from the fire safety point of view, as an exposure hazard, it is very important to create a distance between two buildings. So this distance can be measured from external wall of one building to the external wall of another building, so that in case of any fire, no radiant heat can pass from one building to another, or in case of industrial activities, any explosion is happening, or in case of residential also, LPG cylinder blast or something happening. So it should not affect the opposite building or adjacent building to it. So that is specified as already means explained by Suresh sir. It is a floor area ratio, FAR, is given that the total means FS area of all floors divided by the plot. So that is the index or code which is coming as a noted as a FAR or FSI. The master plan, which is very important for any town for the development, future development of 10 years, 20 years or 30 years, considering all development, the master plan is prepared and the state government approves it once it is published for the suggestion and objection of the citizens. The suggestions and objections are considered from the citizens also, or expert groups working on the master plan of the city or town planners, and then the government approves it, and the development is means carried out as per the approved plan. So that is a normal process under any development plan or the municipal bodies. every city has got its own development plan, and on basis of that only the development happens. The occupancy uses already, it is National Building Code Part 4 provides various occupancies, 9 occupancies and their uses, and subdivisions are there. So similarly, same is incorporated over here. Mixed occupancies, the multiple occupancies wherein the occupancies are intermingled. They are just like a mall or a five-star hotel where you have the business centers also occupancy, then assembly places also, residential accommodations also. So such type of things. Then the plinth area, the built up covered measured at every floor level, including basement. So that is basement or any other story, that is called as a plinth area. Setback lines, the lines usually parallel to the plot boundary and laid down in each case by the authority, beyond which nothing can be constructed. So that is the setback area. Tower-like structures are the structures wherein the width of the base is twice that of the height of the building. So that is given as a tower-like structures. So these are the some land use which are marked on the development plan by the authority. So who prepares the master layout, they will show the residential as here shown as a residential in yellow, commercial in red, the primary residential zone, and the retail shopping, general business provisions, wholesale, godowns, service sectors are shown as a commercial in red. Then industries shown in the purple light color, light industries, heavy industries, and obnoxious industries. They will be scattered as per the zoning of the city. That is Zone 1, Zone 2, and Zone 3 as provided in National Building Code Part 4. Then the public and government buildings as a dark blue land use. Then mixed use are provided in with the light yellow and the vertical hatches. Mixed use industrial, mixed use residential, mixed use commercial, they are provided. Then the recreation activities, light green, playground, parks, garden, open spaces. Then transportation and communication with brown and gray, road, bus stations, railway stations, seaports. Then primary dark green, agricultural or forest things are provided with this. Then you have light blue color, that is water bodies, lakes, and everything is shown in a light blue color. And special areas are provided with the pink color, where is heritage activities, then the government restricted areas, such defense areas, that can be shown with this. So this is the normal, if you have the land parcel, then you can show this residential, commercial, green activities, various amenities based upon the road infrastructure accessing each and every plot. And state government can approve this, and you can carry out development as per the reservations. So this is the example of how the plots can be reserved for various types of occupancies or activities. Then the fire and life safety clause 3.6 gives cross reference of National Building Code Part 4 for fire and life safety. For all other means with reference to fire, life safety activities. Then clause 4, means of access. So this is very important. Every plot should have the access from the public ways and from the main street, so that it can be accessible for various daily purposes or use purposes. So this code provides various provisions with reference to the residential and other buildings. So with reference to the residential building, the minimum width of the means of access is provided as a 6 meters to 24 meters, and the length of means of access is also provided in table 1, which says how much should be the maximum length of the road and width of the road. So that is specified in the table 1 of the part 3. Then 4.3.1 is for the other building like assembly, theater, cinema house, assemblies, and educational buildings, wherein the minimum width is specified as 12 meters and length as a 200 meters, then the 15 meters and 400 meters, 18 meters and 600 meters, and 24 meters and above 600. So these are the minimum road width specified for various types of activities. If you wanted to have, so then you should have minimum that much road width around for approach. Then the access from the highways. If the highways, your plot is abutting on the highways, then only certain activities are allowed, like petrol pumps and motels. If the other things are there, then they should be on the service road, should be provided along with the highway, and access shall be provided from that service roads. Then for high-rise building, this is very important provision from fire and life safety point of view. 4.6 provides it is that in addition to the National Building Code Part 4 requirements, the width of the main street on which the building is abutting shall not be less than 12 meters, and the end of such building, such road shall join to the another street not less than 12 meters. This is very important provision from fire and life safety for the circulation of ambulances and fire appliances in case of any emergency for carrying out evacuation. If the road shall not terminate in the dead end, and except in case of the residential building up to height 30 meters. So there is a restriction. If it is a dead end, you cannot have the building height more than 30 meters if your road is having a dead end. So again, Clause C provides very important provisions. Approach to the buildings and open spaces all around the building shall not be less than 6 meters with the turning circles of 9 meters. So we provide only 6 meter marginal space requirement as per the various codes or Fire Act. But major issue is the turning circle. Your big vehicle cannot turn in 6 meters. So you need a minimum 9 meters turning circle at the corner of the building. So that is very important provision. Also, the various services are housed in the marginal open space like sewerage treatment plants, then water tanks, etc. So that should have the capacity to hold the 45 tons point load, so that in case of emergency, the aerial ladder platform can be pitched in the marginal open space for carrying out external firefighting and rescue operation. So this is very important provision from the fire and life safety point of view. Then there is a provision given depending upon the availability of the fire services. The plan approval and the access requirement can be approved by the local fire department, chief fire officer of respective cities. They are empowered to do that. The main entrance, this is also very important, shall not be less than 6 meters in width, and if the compound is having a gate or arch above it, a clearance from the entry point of view, it should be minimum 4.5 meters. Clearance should be there so that a vehicle can enter easily within the plot. So for a fire and safety point of view, this is very important. The concept of podium, this is upcoming in various metros where the podiums are provided for parking purposes. So first time with clear diagrams, 4.6.1 provides the concept of podium. It is a horizontal projection platform extended beyond the building line, and you can utilize it for the various activities like parking. So use permitted, first is the parking. You should can use the parking and the related services like WC, urinals and wash basins are provided for 500 car parks. Then there is a provision for the driver's restroom in the residential building. Fire building utilities can be housed. Then the landscape can be created on the top of the podium and with the parapet wall of 1.6 meters. And if it is any commercial or any use are created, then it should be counted in FSI. So the requirement again specified is the podium may be permitted for the plot above 1,500, which is very important. If you wanted to keep minimum 6 meters space from all sides, then there should be minimum plot size required to have the podium. Then the ramps, if the ramps are provided, in for the podium, then it should not be exceed, the height of the podium shall not exceed 30 meters from the ground level. In case of the podium which is not provided with ramp, only with car lift, then its height should be restricted up to 9 meters from the ground level. So these are the restrictions given in the code for the podium. Then the ramps requirements are given for the vehicles. One-way ramp with clear width of minimum 3 meters. If two-way ramp it is there, then the 6 meters for light motor vehicles. Then 4.5 meter single way and 9 meters two-way ramp for the light commercial vehicles. And if the vehicle is used by heavy motor vehicles, in that case, minimum 6 meters ramp should be provided, and two-way it is there, then 12 meters clearance. The slope shall be maximum 1 in 8 is proposed in the code. After every 40 meter length, there should be minimum flat surface of 6 meters length. So which is given in the figure 8B. If the podium is accessible by fire tender, minimum 7.5 meter width ramp shall be required for fire engine, and the maximum slope is recommended as 1 in 10. So this diagrams provides the requirement for the one-way and two-way ramps, and also the turning circle and requirement for the ramps accessible by the fire tenders. The podium shall not be permitted in a required front margin space. Front margin space are normally utilized for any future development by the urban local body or the regulator authority for carrying out services. So in such cases, the ramp shall not be permitted. Then podium, if accessible by the fire tender, it should take the load of 45 tons minimum as per the requirement of fire department. Point load should be there, so that your external firefighting and rescue work can be possible from the podium. Then, as already told, the podiums and everything should be accessible by the elderly and disabled persons. So that provisions are provided in Annex B of the Part 3. The requirement for the movement of fire tenders for 15 meters and above building, it should be means fire tender should access the all sides. So that is provided in the this diagram. Sorry, 6 meters in this diagram, as they have shown, from the plot boundary to the podium line, 6 meters clear space is there. And if you see here, if my arrow, this path is a fire tender access, wherein you can pitch any aerial ladder platform and you can carry out external firefighting and rescue work. So this is a fire tender access provided for this high-rise building. So it is normally recommended that the floor means if the building total area is up to 10,000 square meters, then it should have two-thirds of the place. And if it is more than 10,000, then it should be the half area, means 50% of the external surfaces should be accessible for the fire tenders from the ground level. So these guidelines are provided for the fire tender access with podium. If podiums are not accessible by the fire tender and building footprints are beyond that, then also minimum 6 meters driveway and 9 meters turning circles are recommended in the drawings that we will see. This we have already discussed, the requirement of up to 10,000 square meters and beyond 10,000 square meters requirement. So this is the another drawing provided, wherein projections of podium, they are beyond the building line, and there is a restriction given. If you see this, means from the building line to the podium line, there should be maximum distance of 11 meters. This distance, my arrow is there, so that distance should not be more than 11 meters on either side or any side of the building, either on front or sides or on the back. So you should have the clear access made available for fire tender to have the external approach to the building. So that is a restriction, and rest of the area you can have the more than 12 meter podium. but at least in 50% area, there should be clear access provided around the building with 6 meters and 9-meter turning circle. This is a 9-meter turning circle requirement, and the 6-meter approach road requirement. And on podium, from the podium line to the building line, it should not be more than 11 meters. So this is the requirement provided. If the fire tender is accessible by accessing the podium level, in that case, the ramp should be minimum 7.5 meters. This is a 7.5 meter ramp is proposed for the fire brigade access, and fire brigade vehicle can reach to the podium level, and the circulation made available on the podium up to 6 meters with 9 meters turning circle, so that they can have the access to the various parts of the building. So these provisions are provided in the for the podium. So this is a very good diagram provided in the part 3, wherein it is shown that if your building is abutting on the external side of the podium, you can reach on the upper levels. It means external firefighting and rescue is very much possible from the external side easily with the aerial ladder platform. We have now up to 90 meters aerial ladder platform we can reach. If the building is inside the podium line, so that distance shall not be more than 11 meters. So that vehicle can be pitched parallel to the podium, and it can reach up to certain height in case of emergency for carrying out firefighting and rescue operation. So this is the diagram. If the podium is not accessible with fire appliances, then the arrangement should be made like this. So these are the, as we have already discussed, various amenities are provided in the part 3. Some amenities I have highlighted over here. This is the educational ones, where the land requirement for 2,500 population is 0.08 hectares. Then for the primary school, from first to, for every 5,000 population and 500 student, 0.40 hectares recommended. For the population, for every 7,500 population with for class 6 to 12, for 1,000 students, 1.80 hectares are recommended. So healthcare facilities, also dispensaries for every 15,000 population, then the area required for the nursing homes, then for the hospitals, general hospitals for every 250,000 population, and the capacity of the 500 beds, minimum 6 hectares land is recommended. And for the other hospitals, 4 acres, and residential accommodation, 2 hectares, they are recommended in the code. Safety management for the fire station, 1 fire station for every 2 lakh population, and for 1 within 5 to 7 kilometers requirement, and the area with residential accommodation should be 1 hectare. Then sub station is recommended for 3 to 4 kilometer radius with essential 0.6 hectares. Then disaster management center, 1 in each administrative zone, that taluka or tahsil you can say, sub-divisional level office, 1 hectares with open area, 2 hectares in case of temporary shelter and other requirements. And for the fire training institute colleges, 3 hectares they have recommended. So another feature which was included is electrical distances from the building, which are very important from the magnetic flux, or if lightning is happening, then it may create a danger to the building. So electrocution may happen to the occupants. So to avoid that, minimum distances are specified from the building lines vertically and horizontally from the building. So these are as per the Indian electricity rules that the Central Electricity Authority has issued one regulation in 2010. Based upon that, these guidelines are incorporated in the part 3. So clearances for 650 volts, they have specified in the code, and it means various residential ones and other buildings also. So clearances they have given for the flat roof or open balconies, verandas, it should be minimum vertical distance of 2.5 meters from the highest point, and adjacent to the building or horizontal clearance should be minimum 1.2 meters. For pitch roof, again the same, vertical distance of 2.5 meters immediately under the line, and if it is horizontal, then the clearance should be 1.5 meters if voltage is up to 650 volts. The horizontal clearances shall have the maximum deflection in case of winds pressure. So that new feature has been incorporated in the these provisions. In case of gushing winds, if the deflection is happening, then you should have that in that has to be calculated. Then again, a second requirement is given. If the distances are less, then it should be properly insulated and have the breaking strength of not less than 350 kgs. If the voltages are more than say 650 volts, then again requirements are increasing up to 3.7 meters, and for every 33 kVA volts, 0.30 meters should be increased. So horizontal distances also for voltage exceeding 650 up to 11 kV, it is 1.2 meters. And if it is going from 11 kVA to 33 kVA, then distance should be minimum 2 meters. And again, if it is going beyond 33 kVA, then 2 meter plus 0.3 meter for every additional 33 kVA. So for high voltage currents, these are the requirements: direct voltage current from 100 to 800, and the vertical clearances and the horizontal clearances are provided in part 3, which is very important from the safety, electrical safety point of view. Then, as already Suresh sir told, that classification of building is very important depending upon use to restrict the fire load and to provide the minimum fire protection requirements. So that is specified with reference to part 4 of National Building Code. Then type of construction is also specified with reference to table 1 of part 4 of National Building Code, wherein type 1, type 2, type 3 and type 4 construction is recommended. Type 1 is, we say it is a 4 hours fire resistance, 2 is 3 hours, type 3 is 2 hours, and type 4 is 1 hour fire rated. So normally these guidelines are given in table 1 of National Building Code part 4. The again important, very important feature with cross reference from National Building Code part 4, that is fire and lab safety, related to open spaces. So every room should have it on the internal or external open spaces for drawing light and ventilation, for to have the proper livable spaces or working spaces. So considering that various provisions are made. So with reference to the residential building, with reference to the height of the building, normal thumb rule is height divided by 3 is made applicable in this table 4 of, wherein the side and or rear open spaces are specified. If you go up to above 15 meters building height, if you see the building height is 15 meters, then you should have the minimum open spaces of 5 meters. 18 meters, 6 meters. If it is 30 meters, then 10 meters. Then if it is 50 meters, 14 meters. 70 meters, 17 meters. 120 meters, 18 building height, 120 meters, 18 meters should be open space, and above 120, 20 meters. So these are guidelines given in this table for the light and ventilation point of view. And as we have already discussed, it is very important from the exposure hazard point of view, and also for the circulation of fire appliances for external firefighting and rescue operations. So tower-like structure, this is point again very important to have the development wherein if the building height is 24 meters, you can have minimum 6 meter clear margin space at ground level, and you can take one setback to compromise the remaining marginal space requirement. In case of 24 meters to 37.5 meter building, you can have 9 meters at ground level and you can have one upper level setback. If the height is between 37.5 meters to 70 meters, you can have two setbacks, but minimum ground level you should have 12 meters. If the building height is between 70 meters to 120 meters, with two setbacks, you can have ground level minimum 14 meters and other marginal spaces you can have on the two setbacks. The height, if it is going beyond 120 meters, you should have minimum 16 meters at ground level, and whatever remaining you can have with two setbacks. So these are the guidelines given in code. Here they have properly explained with diagram in the code. So up to 24 meter building height, you can have minimum ground level 6 meters, and remaining setbacks you can take on upper level. So it is a temple like structure you can have. This is very useful for as a open terrace also from the temporary refuge till you get support from the fire services in case of emergency. Uh, these setbacks can be utilized. If the building height is up to 37.5, then minimum ground level 9 meters and you can take one upper level setback. Here also from 37.5 to 70 meters, minimum ground level you should have 12 meters and you can have two setbacks. First setback at this level, second setback at this level. H by 3 you can have, and you can extend this up to means if it is 70 meter to 120 meters, then you should have minimum 14 meters at ground level and you can have two upper level setbacks. So in case of buildings beyond 120 meters, minimum 16 meters at ground level, and you can have upper level setbacks to meet the light and ventilation requirements. So other occupancies, if we are talking about the marginal spaces provided for the educational building, which are very important nowadays. Every school require the fire safety clearance from the to approve that school. Every year, CBSE or any school, they request local fire authorities to grant approval. So for initial stages, the open spaces from all around the school shall be minimum 6 meters. For institutional hospital building, again, it is not less than 6 meters and it shall govern to the height. But for the educational and institutional building, there is a cap provided in below table 7 that height should not be more than 30 meters. So you have to regulate all developments below 30 meters in case of educational and institutional building. That now the institutional is increased up to 45 meters depending upon the various availability of resources that we will discuss later. Assembly building, again, the open space front shall not be more than 12 meters and other open spaces of 6 meters. Area and height limitations, which is specified in clause 9 of the part 3. Height restrictions are depending upon these parameters. These parameters are loudly and clearly mentioned in the code, where it depends upon the occupancy. As I have told you already, we have restriction for the hazardous storages, then hazardous industries, then for the educational and institutional occupancies in National Building Code Part 4 under Table 7, then these occupancies are governed with that. And the type of construction, that also we have discussed as with reference to the provisions of Part 4 of National Building Code, type of construction, which is very important. In case of type 1 construction, the unlimited building height can be granted. Then the width of the street on which it is abutting, then the traffic load, availability of fire services, then the density in that area, parking facilities made available, water supply and drainage, other facilities. So all this we have to consider while granting approval to the maximum building height in that particular area, which is clearly specified in this clause. Again, there are certain guidelines, as already Suresh sir told, that maximum building height shall not exceed 1.5 times the width of the road abutting, plus the front marginal spaces provided in the building, subject to maximum 16 meters. So that we have to consider uh, and allow the building to come up in that particular area. If the building is abutting on the two or more roads, then you should have the greater width regulations. Uh, Building in the vicinity of aerodrome, as I have already told you, there are some restrictions with reference to the aviation rules, wherein the approach for the aircraft and the departure of the aircraft, we call it as a funnel. So if your plot is falling within the funnel zone, in that case, there is a restriction to the building height, and you have to obtain approval from the Civil Aviation Government of India for that particular building height. And it should not means every local authority has to follow these rules, and uh, on the clearance from the civil aviation only, the building approvals or the commencement certificate can be issued to that particular building for that particular height. These are the, depending upon type of construction, type 1, type 2, type 3, type 4, and the various kind of occupancies, right from residential, education, institutional, assembly, buildings, mercantile, industrial, storage, and hazardous. So how much FSI can be granted with reference to at least 9 meters road. So as I have told you, various parameters already we have discussed. Based upon that, the local authority can grant higher FSI. So in certain areas, for the certain occupancies, higher FSIs are granted. For residential hotels, buildings, up to 4 FSI can be granted, or sometimes it is more than that also can be granted. But there are some guidelines wherein they are listed in clause 2 under note, that the density of the dwellings, traffic condition, parking spaces, local fire service facilities, and water drainage. These are the key factors which shall govern the maximum building height, in addition to the road width. The other requirements of plot related to the buildings, they have given in this code, like plinth, habitable rooms, what should be the minimum size of the habitable room, what should be light and ventilation, what should be the kitchen, bathroom sizes, mezzanine floors, then height not less than minimum 2.7 for the habitable rooms, the areas of bathrooms. So again, one important feature from the fire and life safety point of view is the basement, which is a very challenge area in case of fire, that the visibility is very poor, and it is very challenging for every fire services to deal with the basement. So for this basement, there are various guidelines issued. The use permittable for the basement, that is used for the storage and the strong rooms, bank cellars, air conditioning equipment handling, then the car parking. These are the provisions made in this rule. Then basement can be permitted beyond the ground, means beyond the building line. So that how much it should be, the clearances given in the this code, and the mechanical ventilation requirement for the ventilating the basement. Then minimum height for the basement, it should at least 2.4 meter height from the slab to the ground level. Then the adequate ventilation as per the requirements, codal requirement, and the basement should come up minimum 0.9 meters to 1.5 meters above ground, so that in case of everything fails, at least natural ventilation is possible from this 0.9 meters to 1.2 meter height above ground. This is specified in this diagram clearly. So this is my building and this is my basement line. So from the plot boundary to the basement line, it should be minimum 3 meters. In case of front road, so it should be minimum 4.5 meters from the road or your front compound wall to the basement line. And the plinth level from the ground level to the your ground level to the basement level, it should be minimum 0.9 to 1.2 meters, so that natural ventilation can be possible or you have to have the cut-off spaces in the basement so that you can ventilate the basement in case of emergencies, or you can have the mechanical ventilation system to draw products of combustion out of the basement. So other important features provided in the annexure of this code, the requirement, as we have annexure B, requirement for the accessibility for built environment for elderly and disabled person, and annexure C provides the requirement for the low income housing groups in the cities, urban areas. There are various slum rehabilitation projects are going on in various cities. These guidelines are very useful. Then the special requirement for the cluster planning for the old cities or where congested housings are there. So you can have the redevelopment with the combining 2-4 plots, adjacent plots, and have a regulated development. Then the special requirement for low income habitat in rural areas to meet the requirement for the rural housing. Then the special requirement for the development in hilly areas. So these are detailed annexures are provided along with the part 3, wherein they can be used for various types of development. The key issues, what I see, it is provisions of part 3. Normally they are discussed with the development planners or only architect. They are not discussed in various open platforms, and they get limited up to architects and the town planners in the city. Then that should be discussed, because they are very important. If you are owning land in any of the rural or developed cities, then what reservations you should know about it on your land, and whether the land is acquired by the government for the road infrastructure, for any other amenities. So you should know these provisions of part 3 and your city development plans reservations. Then the provisions of part 4, adaptability and part 3, adaptability in development control rules and fire act of respective state, which is very important. All this part 3, part 4, and including, as Suresh said, already told, part 2 is also very important. So all this should be incorporated in the syllabus of civil engineering and architectural colleges, so that from the initial stage only they will come to know the various provisions which are very important from fire, life safety and livability point of view. The limited training facilities also available in the country for urban planning and fire safety requirements. The interdepartmental coordination is also very important aspect. The all stakeholders, right from the owner of the plot, developer, then the authorities, municipal authorities or urban development departments, the fire services, architect, they should have the better coordination from fire, life safety and visibility of the building. And general community awareness is very important of this subject. So the only enforcement through various building bylaws, building rules, planning standards, development control rules, fire regulations or fire act, town planning rules, hazardous mapping rules, or water supply or drainage. So all these requirements, codal requirements of part 3, part 4 and part 2 also shall have the cross references in various statutes, so that collectively we can be in a position to give better usability to the building and better safe environment. So that is all from my side. Thank you very much for the patience listening. Dominic, over to you.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. Suresh, sir, you want to have any comment before we take up the questions?
First of all, I want to congratulate Santosh Warik for an outstanding presentation, and he has covered all the grounds that I expected her to do that. I had also opportunity to see large number of comments which are coming on the chat box, as well as on the Q&A from Vinay Deshpande, Vijay Anand, Swaroop, so many other people there. I'm sure when you read out those questions, we'll be able to give replies, because we have now more than around 45 minutes to an hour for all the Q&A. For all those people, about 34 questions are there. We can easily cover each of them. Reply can be given, short replies will be given, but not subsequent question answer session, but we'll give the reply. But later on, if anybody wants more than that, they can always email to me as well as to Santosh Warik, and to you, of course. You yourself know the topic on that. But otherwise, it's an excellent job done, coming as the Chief Fire Officer of Maharashtra and also the Director of the Maharashtra State Fire Services for all the industrial townships in a large way. A presentation of this nature on, normally they are all experts in part 4. For it to come in part 3, he has done a very creditable job. Santosh, my congratulations to you for a great presentation and for vividly bringing you out through good sketches and explaining those details in a very large way, which should be appreciated equally. Many people did not even know, I'm sure even now, today, of course, you have a very good audience of over 350 at one point, now about 303. But therefore, for them, this is very important, the link between both the parts. And why are those provisions written? It's very important for people to understand why provisions are written like that. Sometimes they may not understand. You're given the background to each of them also, why it is done. Therefore, the background behind that. I will stop at this point of time. Let's give time for as many questions and answers. I'm sure you would take the opportunity to present all the questions, Dominic. And my rule is that since the major presentation is done by Santosh, I think 70% of the reply he will do, 30% I'll chip in. Wherever there is any problem at Santosh's level, I'll chip in for giving more clarifications. Okay? On the ground rules, take it forward.
Thank you, sir. Once again, thank you, Mr. Santosh Warik. It's wonderful. Very well briefed on part 3 and relevant to part 4. So I will take the first question from Vinay Deshpande, and very important question that is raised. Is there any standard for fire service to respond, a response time that is considered and require a traffic impact study during planning stage?
That is Vinay Deshpande's question.
So he's asking, what is the fire service response?
Response. What is the response time? I think this is your topic. Response time.
Yes.
During the planning stage. He's asking for the planning stage.
Santosh will do that.
Response time is normally for the urban areas, means it is expected to be 5 minutes, and rural area maximum 20 minutes. So based upon that, any traffic impact study can be done. And you can see where is the location of nearest fire services available from the plot, and you may see the traffic condition during peak hours, and that is doable. But normally it has not been done. In cities, at least, it is very difficult. I have not come across any such type of document done by any of the developer.
I think Santosh, if I may say, one other, in all fairness to you, you did indicate in the original one, when you talked about the space needed, you look at the fire station in each of the location within over 2 kilometers. Any particular thing within a particular area, within 2 kilometers zone, you should have the fire station available. Many cases, they are much, much beyond. Namely, the number of fire stations required for each of the city for its population, the way it's gone, is much, much more than what is provided. So therefore, response times become as much more. So therefore, what happens is, since the response time is becoming much, much more, and fire facilities are not there, more so in industrial township and other related one, you got to give inbuilt fire protection yourself in your building with automatic sprinklers and all, and not necessarily depend upon the fire brigade to come and fight the fire for you. So it'll be a combination of inbuilt fire protection plus also capacity of the fire brigade coming. There are many developments where when fire brigades are not there, developers themselves provide the facilities for the fire station, put the cost for the fire station, including initial investment, so that they have the protection available from the firefighting team also. It's a good question, but I think what you told is the right one. Internationally also same time is there. 5 minutes is the type of time required, but many cases at 5 will become sometimes 20 minutes, 30 minutes. Many times they say half an hour time it took for the fire brigade to reach over there. You know, it comes on that. Let's go to the next question.
Okay, sir. It's from Anirban Mandal. Is asking insulated metal fire, how many minutes has been proposed in NBC? I think everybody knows minimum is 2 hours. So I'll skip this question, but this is quite
Yeah.
common question. Tan
Yeah.
Sharma from Australia. Tan Sharma.
I think that's already clarified. That is already clarified earlier in various things. What he's talking within the building, that response time of the fire brigade is different from the time required for evacuation. That is already indicated already. It is 2 minutes time period from a room to a door, through the corridor, to the staircase and getting out. Those details are already available. That will come in the part 4, not in the part 3. The first question, the second question are not necessarily the same. They're different.
Okay. Tan Sharma from Australia, sir, is asking to Mr. Suresh, sir, as a vice chairman of NBC committee. Currently, the performance-based engineering solutions are not given due weightage in the NBC.
Who said?
We look forward in incorporating.
Sir, who said that? Everything is performance based. As a matter of fact, all that the code says, everything is performance based indication over there. If you say, I require a 1 hour fire resistance, a door or a wall or a compartment over there, it is that. So what is it that gives you the 1 hour is performance. Therefore, is it going to be a brick with so much thickness over there, or is it going to stone with some of the thickness, or you got a wonder material that is evolved? So everything is depending upon that. Once you indicate, everything is performance based requirement on that. So therefore your information that performance based is not given a thing is completely misinformation, disinformation and lack of information and not the right information. Please read provisions of the building code. Travel distance is a functional requirement. Namely, how much time it will take for you to reach on the particular one. Capacity for unit exit widths. How much time it will take for you in a 2 minutes time for you to standing one behind the other for you to move around. So they are all requirements based on that. Your classification for all the fire resistance, not only rating related one, how much should be the column, how much for the beam, how much for the wall, how much the door, how much for the glass, with various requirements of the Q values and the R values and fire resistance rating. If that is not performance, what is it? Maybe you're not aware of the NBC 2016 version, sir. I can say NBC 2016 version is one of the finest codes anywhere in the world, can compete with the best codes available in respect of performance. But where we are not able to test it, performance means you've got a good testing facilities, assessment facilities. So in such cases, we'll say that minimum so much thickness, that is the prescriptive. So a combination of the performance-based requirement along with prescriptive where testing facilities are. For example, fire row, if you want to have the fire resistance routing of a door there, only a CBRI had the facilities there. It's only now expanded over the last few years on each one of the product or what they have. To know the resistance rating, it's taking a little longer time. So India's development needs today, unless you back it up with lot of testing facilities in the public sector, private sector, technological institution, the performance requirement will not be able to reach the goal. So to that extent, we have indicated if you can't achieve that, say, I think, for example, it says 1 hour thing can be about 35 millimeter. Or 2 or 1.5 hours can be 40 millimeter. I'm talking about the door thickness for the door. So therefore, that's backed up with that particular thing also. I hope that clarifies over to you. You can exchange.
I'll move to next question from Ganesh. Is asking, what should be the fire separation distance between two commercial buildings? Is there any relaxation if buildings have 1 or 2 hours fire resistance rated external glass facade, the facade, or a drencher and the sprinkler provided for fire protection of glass facade?
Santosh, you can take
it. No relaxation is there with reference to the distance between the two buildings. If you are going for the fire rated means glass facade, or you're going for the sprinklers or drenchers, so only in case of you are not drawing light and ventilation from outside, if it is a dead wall, so both the dead walls are there. In that case, you can reduce down the distance between the two buildings h/3 instead of that to the minimum of 8 meters as per the codal requirements.
Absolutely right, sir. You're right.
The one question from Mr. Prasanna Kumar, our previous webinar speaker, is asking, in residential campus, if MLCP done for parking for resident avoiding basement, will it be called mixed occupancy?
No, mixed occupancy is a word that is used primarily when different uses are coming over there. For example, you can have a large number of buildings which are there. We can have the shopping on the ground floor or the first floor, like a mall component. You can have office spaces above. Above that can be residential spaces coming. Mixed occupancy is where within the vertical heights or horizontal distances, 2-3 uses are coming. Normally, they were all not provided, but 2016 opened up and saying that you do provide mixed occupancy is a good thing to happen over there. Shop come residences, office come residences, such mixed uses over there. Just because you're providing the parking in a separate one, that will not become a mixed occupancy. If it is purely residential, then that's it. Let's understand, if parking and multi-level car parking is provided, that will not make it a mixed occupancy coming over there. So therefore, understand how many uses are there in the building at vertically and horizontally within the same building block. That's what will decide finally on the mixed occupancy. Santosh, you want to open up?
Yeah, that is true. Means you can have the shopping at ground level, then you have the parking podium above it, and then the residential or commercial building. So in that case, it is a mixed occupancy, but only thing requirement respective occupancy should be provided with minimum fire protection, and the separation should be minimum of 4 hours fire resistance wall. So you can segregate that risk. So that is the requirement.
Let's move to the next question. Question from Swarup Nagar. Road width. He's talking about road width. This regulation is for only the.
I see this question. The answer is yes. Whether it is a public road or internal, I think if you would have heard his presentation detail, it also talks of layout. Within the layout, it talks of hierarchy of roads coming, width of the road and the length of the road. So let's say you're going to have a 100-acre township coming from a main highway, which is public road, and then you have internal layouts which are coming over there. Those internal layouts will have roads of different hierarchy, a 40 feet road of 12 meter, 30 feet road of 9 meter, 20 feet road of 6 meter, etc., etc. You have there. So all these provisions that are there within the particular one code is equally applicable to the subdivided internal roads and streets or alley, whatever you want to call that. It's all functional. It's all performance based. So whatever be the width of the road, therefore, provide those things. You can't make a 6-meter road and go in it for 1 kilometer. No way. There's a length restriction of that particular thing, not beyond that. Brakes have to come to those particular one. So the answer is it applicable? Yes. The answer is yes, it's applicable.
Sir, I'm reading out the question because participants will not be aware of what question they have raised. So
I thought it's on the chat box.
Participants know, so they will not be able to understand the question. So I'll go to Ganesh. Though I said will not take more than 2 questions, I'll take this Ganesh from Ganesh. In commercial buildings, we have false ceiling extended up to glass facade. My question is, can we have a sprinkler placed on the false ceiling for protection of external glass facade? Is it a code requirement to place them at the highest point above the false ceiling for protection of glass facade?
You want to take it, Santosh?
No, if it is a false ceiling, then how means if it gets activated, that sprinkler, how it will cover your glass facade if it is below the false ceiling? So it should be outside the false ceiling. Then only it can cover your glass facade.
Correct. I think in addition to that, the NBC 2016, I'm not sure Mr. Ganesh has gone through or not. It has got very interesting thing on buildings which are made of glass facades there. For the first time, we have brought in the requirement. Previously, it was all taboo earlier. A 10% minimum openable thing to be done in the case of glass is put over there. I'm not sure whether you're aware or not. In addition to part 4, fire protection, where all these details are there, you also have the structural glazing covered in part 6, section 8. This is the first time structural glazing has been covered. But then that is a structural system. The whole wraparound of the building is on that particular structural system coming on that. It's also covered. So therefore, you have got, in addition to the 10% openable component, you got drenchers coming, or the type of sprinklers which can also be put along with the particular walls. But as Santosh rightly clarified, anything beyond the false ceiling, it also depends what is the distance up to which that particular impact can come. Even if fire can be generated from below, if that particular sprinkler can be activated, if it is too far away, it will not have its impact. Each have got a throw coming on there. I'm sure each will have a impact area for each of the sprinkler nozzles coming on that. But the direct answer that Santosh has given is the right thing that you should proceed with. Drenchers are the right thing, which are also available linked with the sprinklers, which linked with the glass facade.
Sir, you have a suggestion from Prasanna saying that every state is changing the driveway width and loading also differs. Can we standardize on this?
Already
Driveway width.
standard. Of course, it is standardized. For different widths, different values are indicated. If the road capacity is not there, if you're having only a 20 feet road, then you have only limited development on that road. But you want to have a larger development coming over there, then you link it with the road. Maybe Prasanna should know that this concept is answered so beautifully by Andhra Pradesh and now Telangana and Andhra Pradesh. That's the only two states in the country where all of them are linked to the width of the roads. The direct answer to Prasanna. They are standardized. So if you have more width from 6, 9, 12, 18, 60 feet, 100 feet, all the roads there, then development can be more of a larger height. You know, they don't have any FSI or FAR rules. The only two states where no FSI, FAR rules are Andhra Pradesh and Telangana, where everything is linked with, as Santosh has said, width of the road and the open space in front. That will decide, full stop. No further. It will
But
be
he's
side
saying-
setback, side setback, front setback, width of the road. That will decide your total one. No separate rules beyond that. So it's
No,
a
he's
good
saying,
question Prasanna asked.
he's saying different state got a different rules.
So it has got to be in line with NBC, simple. All states have to fall in line, but that's already happening. In respect of fire, if I'm not mistaken, Santosh can clarify, all the states are taking NBC Part 4 as a requirement. They don't write anything in the thing beyond that. Only on heights of buildings over there, beyond a certain height requirement, your fire provisions will become automatic. NBC has put us 15 meters. Some state has put 16 meters, adding 1 more meter above that. And we never put the number of stories. Somebody has put more than 4 stories. No, our idea is that 15-meter rule that we have put, beyond which we should provide all the fire safety provision, is linked with the lifts to be provided beyond that. Capacity of the people to reach beyond that walking on your own is that limit of around not 5 stories, but 15 meters high. Beyond that, the panting will start. It's also normally 80% of the cities do not have the firefighting facilities or ladder for you to reach heights beyond that. At one point of time, Bombay had the rules of more than 80 feet or 24 meters was the limit up to which their particular thing. But now they have hydraulic tables which can go up to even 200 feet height or 60 meters. So it all depends on what facilities you will have for dealing with the particular one. But otherwise, please go with the provisions of NBC Part 3 and Part 4. And most of the states, according to me, 90% of the states have adopted NBC provisions Part 4 in full without any change. Under the Fire and Fire Services Act, they adopted Part 4 as the document for them to guide by.
So, question from Swarup Nagar on
Again,
the
Swarup.
fire truck setback. Generally, fire truck in setback or fire tender
Okay.
in setback.
Yeah, I think
This
Santosh
for
will take
the
it.
Mr. Santosh Warik. Generally,
What
it is
question?
green. Generally, it is green with soft landscaping. Will the fire tender move in setback or on a road provided around the building? In that case, is it necessary to have a slab for underground facilities in green with local carrying capacity for fire tender?
I think it's
Actually,
clarified, but
it is
let me do it again.
expected that the external firefighting and rescue work will happen from the roads provided around the building, not from the greens. So
Yeah,
you can have the play area or the mandatory tree plantation required as per the local rules on the external side. But along the very close to the building line, you should have the proper pakka road where you can fire appliances can be pitched or your aerial ladder means jacking can be possible. So that minimum 6 meters or 9 meters or 12 meters, whatever it, as per the building height, it should be left open without any encumbrances or parking, so that the fire brigade vehicle movement should be always kept free of any obstructions.
and
So
you have
this-
further clarified, Santosh, you have further clarified. I think you didn't open out, that it should have a capacity for a 45-ton vehicle to move. That means the slab thickness of that particular one will not be the normal 6 inches, and it will be an 8 inches thick, so that that load can be there for that one to move around. So it's important. It can be on the ground, or maybe if it is part of a little basement, because some other thing can go, basement can go beyond the building line. You also showed. So you got to ensure that its carrying capacity also should be 45 ton. No way it can be on a landscape. So the answer is very clear. Thank
Sir,
you.
Yogita M. Pawar is asking, convenience store cum sale building in a petrol pump and a pre-6 is equal to yes comes under which classification of building?
It's a mixed use occupancy. It will cover two things: hazardous, which is petroleum and all that. The other one is retail. So therefore, there is also a rule. If the, depending upon, if you have most of the area, what is the predominant occupancy that comes, that will decide finally what will be the thing. If you are having, say, around 3,000 square meter of the petrol bunk coming, and you have only around 100 or 200 square meter of this convenience shop coming on that, even though by rule that convenience shopping will come under the mercantile use, the other will be hazardous, but overall larger requirement will come under that particular predominant one. Santoshji, you can open out on that.
Yeah, correct, sir. It is an incidental occupancy, or you can say it is supporting to the petrol pump. So it is not a major occupancy. Major will be the potential risk is of the petrol storage or diesel storage stored in that particular plot.
But within the shopping over there, other requirements of the building code will be applicable as for mercantile or a shopping needs. So there, the hardest, the tougher one will not come. I just thought clarity on that.
Yeah.
Right.
Sir, Naveen Kumar want clarification on NBC 2005. There was a clause mentioned on evacuation time, that is 15 minutes, 2 minutes, and 2.5 minutes. But in
Naveen,
2016,
Naveen, you are in history. Come on. It's a shame that you're talking about 2005 version. 2016 version has come, National Gazette. 4 years is in operation.
He's asking why the evacuation time is removed. He's asking why.
Don't even talk of that. It is not 15 minutes.
Previously, means this time with proper diagram, we have included other features, basically exit discharge, then the capacity of the exits and all that. So with reference to that, if the building height is say 100 meters or 30 stories, so it is not possible to evacuate entire building within 1.5 minutes or 2.5 minutes. It will take another 20 minutes also, 30 minutes also.
Floor by floor.
Not necessarily every building means entire building has to be evacuated. It may be staggered kind of a evacuation. So considering all these aspects based upon the international practices, we have adopted this practice. We have removed old timings with reference to the type of construction, and we have provided general guidelines for the exit discharge. So number of staircases, number of passage, their widths, specifying so that it will ensure that easy evacuation is possible from all floors in various conditions of the building. Means in
if I can add one more line, each one is coming up to each of the floor, which will be cleared out from the room to the corridor to the staircase or ramp to a safer place, which has got external ventilation component. Fire tower component has come in for the building code for the first time. Refuge areas have been brought in over there at various floors, every 3 or 4 floors, refuge areas for you to come and see. We are also going to bring with the higher heights of 60 stories and even 100 stories. Building code has got provisions of also taller building coming, including the part on lifts, which are on part 8, section 5 of the NBC. If you read together, it will also talk, even though the standard rules in case of fire don't use lifts, but for higher heights of buildings over there, that is we are also having fire evacuation lifts also being now brought in over there, because you can't get down from 80th floor or a 60th floor, an elderly man to walk down or climb down. So you require sometimes help on that. That is why this is the right time for you to say on hospital buildings, we had this limit of 30 meters height over there earlier, 10-storied maximum. It has been permitted to be extended up to 45 meters, but with the proviso. This also was told by Wariksa, but it didn't open out then. That's because you will ensure that all the critical care, operation theaters, ICUs, all the people doing the rest, pregnancy, delivery, young babies, they will all be there in the lower heights of 30 meters. The 30 to 45 meters can be other uses where people are active, alive, and where movements are restricted as a result of their own conditions over there. That will be restricted to 30 meters. So this is an answer. Also, that while we might permit up to 45 meters for the hospitals in the NBC, we have provided as against 30 meters in the 2005 version, but we are restricted that only up to 30 meters for all the critical care aspects, including all the operation theaters and the other real critical one. Warik sir, anything you want more add out there?
No, that's it.
So we'll move fast. We have 60 questions to answer. What is the minimum driveway width and turning radius requirement for non-high-rise building?
Non-high-rise building, we don't require. We require this 9-meter turning radius only for buildings which are more than 15 meters height. So
normally the thumb rule is h/3. So
Yeah.
depending upon if you talk about less than 15-meter building, that may be a minimum 3 meters in case of your residential ones, and 4.5 meter in case of other occupancies. That is the minimum if you're talking about low rise.
You have shown that also. I think in one of
Yes.
the tables you showed.
Yeah. Table.
Open scale with the height of the building, you have covered it also.
Sir, Vinay is asking, clarify the difference between high-rise building and tower-like structure.
High-rise buildings, it is dependent upon the total height of the building from the average ground line. And the tower-like structure, it is your length and width of the building is more than twice, double the length and the width of the building is with respect to height, then it is called as a tower-like structure. So there is a hardly difference in it. But it is one high-rise building is governed with the height criteria, and this is the width. Building height should be double the base or the length or width, whichever is more. That is the only difference between two.
Okay, sir. I hope the question is answered properly on this. Sir, Yogita is asking, what is the rating to be considered for the convenience store come sale a building in petrol pump area premises? What is the rating of to be considered? Fire rating.
You want to take it, Santosh?
Separation, it is as per, if it is a mixed occupancy, there is a segregation is recommended of 4 hours in case of mixed occupancy. But here, I don't think it is required because it is a small incidental. It is not a regular kind of a thing. It is not a public activity. Those who are coming for filling up the petrol or diesel, only those limited people will enter into that place. It is, though it is a public, but I think the occupancy wise, it is very less. At any given point, I don't think more than 10 people will be there in that particular area. So,
sir, I moved Divesh, are smoke detector mandatory inside residential flat as per NBC? Because they have a problem in Pune, fire authorities. So there is insisting. So is there any NBC, does it say?
NBC table 7 provides it. The sprinkler requirement for residential buildings are above 45 meters, and for detection, I think it is 60 meters. So if the building height of the flats are going beyond 60 meters, then you have to put detection system inside the rooms. Yeah.
Sir, Nikhil wanted explain fire zone. What is fire zone?
Dominic, half a minute. I think part 4 of the building code is covered in many sessions. We can do once again, one more in case they want. But that particular part has got this table 7. It's one of the finest documents, only 4 pages document in the code there. It covers all the occupancies in the vertical, including heights of building, and horizontally it will cover about 16 tables over there, and that will cover what you want: wet riser, dry riser, sprinkler, detector, all those alarm system, storage of water, everything that one table gives like a capsule, what is needed for all types of buildings that you have in the country of different heights along with the various tables. I want everybody to take note of that. Most of the cases you'll have answers coming in table number 7. Originally, it was a table 23 in the 2005 version, which has become table 7 in the 2016 version. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Fire-
Very good information. Yeah.
Fire zone, actually, it is a provision of Part 4 of National Building Code, wherein if you are planning a new city or a new town, in that case, the fire zones are provided, Zone 1, Zone 2, and Zone 3, wherein in core area, you should have all residential and supporting activities like educational, hospitals, then assembly. Then in Zone 2, you should have the moderate, means low hazard industrial activities and other activities. And in Zone 3, which is last layer of the city, where you can have hazardous and obnoxious industries, storages activities, hazardous storage activities. So these are the requirement given in Part 4 of National Building Code as a fire zones. So which activities can be allowed in Zone 1, Zone 2, and Zone 3 are specified in clause 3.2 of Part 4 of National Building Code.
Yeah, one more point we told is even though height of the building for the fire requirement is shown as 15 meters, there is a subclause coming under that. Either 15 meters all buildings over there, or any building which has got more than horizontal area, more than 500 square meter. And if there are sensitive uses, the authority having jurisdiction like fire authority, that's why the definition also was read out by Santosh there. They can decide to put the provision. That means even for buildings which are lower in height than 15 meters, and if it is of a hospital building or a school building or a sensitivity of public assembly occupancy or a large span building or something of that nature, where you can bring in some of these requirements to operate. That's so please read where all it's applicable on the requirements of fire protection, either 15 meters and above, or buildings above horizontal area of more than 500 square meters, and some sensitive occupancies to be decided by the authority having jurisdiction. You have to provide that. I thought people should understand that. It's not that anything below you can do whatever you like. No, not at all. Well,
So
you can have a single-storied hospital building or a double-storied hospital building, and in case you don't have the fire protection requirement in those buildings, and large number of deaths are happening in hospitals lately, you have seen, and most of the things are all just 3-storied and 4-storied hospitals coming over there, and there are people who can't move around. Even if a fire happens, nothing can happen. They are sick people. They are in a coma. They are in an ICU. So you have to make these provisions even in heights which are less than 15 meters. So therefore, please read the clause provisions in detail. Thank you.
I think the hospital above 10 bed hospital, whether it is nursing home, firefighting and detection are must. So this is
That
the,
is what I'm trying to say. That 10 bed will equal to the area which I told now. So that's why you said horizontal area limit also, or building beyond that area. Either vertical control must, and in certain case, when you have some sensitive occupancy according to me are school buildings, young children, as well as, and the second one is going to be hospitals and healthcare, institutional building, we call it over there.
so Swarup Nagar, sir, Swarup, I'll take this. Swarup Nagar has many questions, but I will take the last question from Swarup Nagar. Margin versus FAR. Will local building laws overrule NBC or vice versa?
NBC is a guiding document, is a recommendatory document. It is not a mandatory document. Statement number one. That means none of the provisions of the building code is mandatory to anybody. But what's happening is your direct question between the local rules and the NBC, the local rules will prevail because local rules is made under an act, a municipal corporation act or a municipality act or a town and country planning act, etc., etc. is a regulation. But what is happening is, with respect to fire is concerned, all the things in addition to the municipal act, which is reading the building rules there, fire department, fire safety act has come in all places there. And once they have decided that Part 4 of fire protection will apply, only one line is needed. That's in the document, that for fire protection, like for example, we are working on large number of states, the building regulator. They'll write it one line. Structural design shall be in line with Part 6 structural design. If you put that one line, all the 800 pages coming in the building code or for structural design will become mandatory. Similarly, when one line on fire protection comes into the building regulation, then all the provisions of Part 4 will become mandatory. That's exactly what's happening now. But in case such a provision is not done, for some reason, they are still retrograde. They are not caught up to the needs of modern needs there. And if some regulations are lower, they are very restrictive, you can always make a case. But the answer is that the local one will prevail, because that's the provision under the Act. The other one is called the deemed to satisfy provision. By making mention of the National Building Code as part of the building regulation in either the fire clause, a structural design clause, or building service clause, lift installation clause, water, sanitation, etc., clause, etc., then the NBC will prevail, because you have made a mandatory document, a recommendatory document will become mandatory the moment it's part of the building regulation referred to in so many words. But my own understanding is that increasingly, as years go by, more and more provisions of these seminars that we are organizing, like this particular thing, people are getting aware on that, and states are also making them as part of, and they also make the rules to be in line with the NBC. Santosh, you want to add?
No, that is sufficient enough.
Sir,
Yeah,
okay.
yes, sir.
Ask
Yeah,
because-
but you can indicate what is Maharashtra's situation on the how you have done it
The
already.
Maharashtra Fire Act directly has got a provisions of whatever for fire and life safety, National Building Code Part 4 shall apply.
Full
So
stop.
that is the provision in the majority of the development control rules and in the Fire Act also. So by that provision, we can mandate Part 3 and Part 4 provisions.
Okay, so let's our answer, let's keep it as crisp as possible, because we have 56 question more. So
How many?
Naveen Kumar is asking, sir, how to define type of construction and fire rating requirement for building?
So as already told, means as per the National Building Code Part 4, there is a table 1, and there is a separate annexure given for various types of materials used in the building construction, which provides the fire resistance rating. So how many of the concrete or brickworks or wood, every material used in the building with proper tables are provided in the annexure of the National Building Code Part 4. By using that much material, you can achieve that much fire resistance rating of the material.
So
Sir,
this is a combination of both Australian query. Performance requirement is so many hours fire resistance, and prescriptive comment is how much thickness of the slab, and all will provide that. Maybe for many information may not know. Even the structural engineers, this is not my baby. It's very much their baby. It says that if you want a column or a beam to come in a type 4 construction, the cover required for the reinforcement as we mow. So even a reinforced concrete code in Part 6 structural design indicates, depending upon the fire resistance rating that you require, 1 hour, 2 hour, 3 hour, or 4 hour, a column, beam, slab, floor will have different cover coming on that. So that the clarification also will be useful for you.
Sir, Yash Sajwani is asking, any specific insulation material that should be used as per NBC? Is NBC recommends any specific insulation material?
No. NBC doesn't specify any specific material. It is the property of any material you can utilize, but it should have that property of fire resistance rating. It should be tested by any international test lab or Indian state lab like CBRI Roorkee or any other test lab.
Only thing is here, in addition to fire resistance rating, because of the issues on interior one, the flame spreadability comes over there. Is it a combustible material, or is it a one which will spread the particular thing? You touch it here, the whole thing spreads horizontally or vertically on the panel or whatever. You got also the flame spreadability of classification A, B, C. So that's also another requirement. One is fire resistance rating. The other one is the flame spreadability rating for interior material. Please read both of them.
Sir, Chandar Sethi is asking, I still not able to understand this question, but I'm sure you will understand. ISNBC to be allowed in each state, or it also depends on requirement or exemption of state laws?
No, it is not the exemption. Any Indian standard or National Building Code, they are all recommendatory documents. So any state law, because buildings, it is a state subject or the urban local body subject in the various state. It is not a central subject. So these are the central guidelines issued by Ministry of Consumer Affairs. and every state has to adopt it through either their any law or by the rules. So by adopting it, it can be mandated by any of the authority, local authority or the state authority for implementation. So that is
And
already cleared by Suresh
And
sir.
the building code says you can either adopt it or you can also adapt it. Adapt is such local variation as you may like to make it. If for certain reason in a local situation, I'm ready to use the building code, but I won't exactly use that, while adapt is some modification as may be necessary, which they'll recognize and they will also justify, it can also be done. So building code says that you can either adopt it or adapt to such local variation as may be necessary, which will be documented for good reasons.
This one is more of electrical, but Mr. Bhavani Prasad was here, just logged out. Otherwise, he would have loved to answer this. So Ishwar Iyer is asking, our friend Ishwar Iyer is asking, do two electrical feeds originating from the same substation with an ATS, automatic transfer switch, meet the requirement of a second alternate source of power?
Each has to be, as I understand, each has got to be separately covered. Your standby generators, you know the fire of Ubhar fire. It came only because of that. From the generating set, the fire spilled on to the fluid and the whole building got fire. You know that. So therefore, they should give a separation between the alternate source of particular thing and the protection needs. But what we can do is note down his email ID and his number. I'm sure we can give a clarification from
No,
his
he's saying power source is from the same substation, but they have a separate meter. Is that second alternate source power require meets the requirement?
You just now said, come on, that's you're contradicting yourself. You just now said same source of power. Now you're saying alternate source of power. I gave the answer for alternate source of power. Alternate source is what your own generators being generating over there. A 500 kV generator or a 1000 kV generator is different than the grid power that you're getting on that. But all the same, let Mr. Iyer's email ID note kariye.
Yeah, I will.
We will give him a good clarificatory response to Mr. Iyer. Don't worry.
I'll go for a Sagar question. Sir, are smoke detector required inside the flat residential building?
I did already clarified. Already clarified.
He's asking whether we need inside the bedroom, living room, or what smoke is there.
Yes, above 60 meter, yes.
Yeah, in every room it is required. Yes.
For example, sprinkler, automatic sprinklers to be provided in residential building. Previously, they used to put just at the entrance door, one point being taken, take it up to the corridor, just put a nozzle at that. That's not enough. So that's why I'm telling you, the reach of each of the sprinkler becomes important. So each of the space would require that particular thing if residential building beyond a certain height. The answer comes to the other one. Capacity for the local fire brigade to come and fight the fire at that heights are not there. So you got an inbuilt fire protection coming on that. That's all covered in table 7. So you got to provide in all spaces.
Sir, Arminder Singh is asking, sir, if any industry is opening on a highway, I don't know what is the question is, opening on the highway, is it not a non-compliance?
So for giving approval to have the entrance from the highway, you have to have the approval from the highway authority. So depending upon the highway's length and width, they will take a call, and it is their prerogative to allow such type of openings or not. Majority times they don't allow. It is shall be operated through the service roads only.
Sir,
but maybe industrial building, you might say so, MIDC and other related road.
No, normally they don't directly open on the highways. We provide a service roads along with the highway, and from that service road, approach is provided to the industrial activities.
Sir, Dilip Shantapa is asking, can you please clarify on hazardous material storage inside any building and its binding factors?
No, hazardous storage means what type of material it is. So there are authorities define. If it is petroleum storage, then it will attract the provisions of Petroleum Act. Then if it is under pressure vessels, then SMPV rules are there to govern. So issue is, in case of emergency, local fire services, local police, and local district authority should know about the potential risk covered in that particular building, so that they can have the on-site and off-site emergency related to disaster management point of view. So considering this aspect, any hazardous activity, the no objection certificate for storage or handling or to utilize, these authorities shall have the information about that material. So considering that requirement, normally it is means all any authority which is approving it, it will seek clearances from the local authority, building authority, fire authority, local police station, and the district authority. So this is the normal practice, and then you have to segregate it. And there are rules, Indian standards, how to protect such type of things. If it is falling under the Chief Control of Explosives, they will provide you the all details regarding the storage, which place you have to store, what ventilation you have to provide, what containment you have to provide. So all these are provided in the approved drawing from their sides.
And part 4, for your information, in addition to the general requirement coming on all fire protection for various types of building, each of the occupancy wise, for example, storage building, hazardous building, industrial building, each one of those particular higher or the business building, or which is office building, etc., they're given for each of them what are all the additional requirements from fire protection point of view to be taken care of, in addition to the statutory provisions which are available under various acts, which is mentioned by Santosh. So the specific question that you asked over there, if you kindly go into part 4, some of those particular clauses are already covered in detail in that.
So moving to Mr. Kirandal question, please describe on AHJ structure in India for fire alarm and protection system. AHJ structure in India.
AHJ structures means it is authority having jurisdiction. So every means if you are talking about the state fire services, then the regional officers or the district fire officers of that state will handle this related to fire approvals for granting provisional and final fire approvals. If you are talking about municipal structure, then it is the municipal fire chief or the fire officer of that local body will give you the provisional fire approval at the time of building plan approval, and at the time of the OC. Before granting OC, you should have the complete detection system or sprinkler system, whatever it required, depending upon the provisional NOC. And then after carrying out inspection, he will give final fire NOC, and which will help you to get occupancy certificate. So that is the authorities are defined with every authority. Means municipal corporation is there, then the fire authority is different. Then if it is a state level fire services, then the regional or district fire officers can handle that cases.
I think it will be good to note that all the state, the fire service are not necessarily as a state departmental service. Many states are unlike that, but there are some good municipal corporations who are well established over the years. The fire brigade and the fire staff are employees of the municipal corporation. Like for example, the Mumbai Municipal Corporation has got their own fire services there. Even though Maharashtra State Fire Service is there overall for others, some of the corporations have their own fire services on that. So the operation will be done by the chief fire officer of the municipal corporation. Otherwise, they'll be done by the state chief fire officer or the director of fire service, along with the hierarchy of people down below in up to various districts or cities under the control they have under that.
Sir, this question, fire response in many countries are indicated. What Mr. Vijay Bendi is, mentioning that in most of the country, fire response is 7 minutes. So just for clarifying it. So Lalit Kumar Deshmukh is asking a question. Fire hazard mapping requirement is covered under NBC for different occupancy under fire zone to deal with fire emergencies.
Answer is yes, provided, but whether those facilities are there, the number of, it all depends, capacities, capability of the fire brigade in number, equipment, machinery to handle all those particular things. We all want development, all want higher FAR, higher FSI, but do we have the commensurate capacity of the local fire brigade, not only in terms of number and distance, within the distance for you to come within 7 minutes. He said, you heard Warwick telling that. And the Standing Fire Advisory Committee of the Government of India under the Ministry of Home Affairs have done a wonderful mapping. That question of mapping comes over there for each of the cities, and they have tried to identify what is the real requirement of the fire station and how much is actually provided. In many cases, or most of the cases, the actual availability of these requirements of the fire brigade would be lesser than even 50% than what is actually required. So therefore, the answer comes in that particular one. It is not a problem of mapping being done or not. It's a matter of governments having the capacity to do that. Over a period of time, you will find, therefore, you will also supplement that not only through the government funding or through the budget funding, or also through possibility the private sector developers who are coming with the development. I want this large development. The fire brigade can, and if I'm not mistaken, I do remember Maharashtra did that for an area which is far away in a new township development. There's no fire facility for 10, 15 kilometers away. They put a place in your layout, put a space for the fire, put an amount of money required to fire station. We won't give the approval for that. Warwick Saab, you can open on that.
Yeah. Means in
Why don't you
Maharashtra.
Sir, we are running out of time. Let's.
Let me clarify that. It's important, sir. Let me clarify.
The private townships have come up, and in that they have provided the full-fledged fire station to protect their areas because they were beyond the municipal limits, so no fire service was available in that area. So we have insisted them, and they have provided it, and they have gone for the height up to 100 meters also in their areas.
Not only location, building cost also, and all the facilities also. Okay. Right.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Ranjit from Kerala is asking, are there any fire norms that connects coastal regulation zone?
It doesn't matter. Just because you have seawater available nearby, only thing is additional source of water. Come on. If the building is going to be tall, like what you had in Marade, all the tall buildings, the coastal zonal regulation will decide whether your particular building is within the CRZ limit or not. Coastal regulatory zone. There is coastal regulatory zone management authority who is supposed to give a clearance on the height of the building with respect to the coastal zone with the high tide level and other related requirements under that. The fire requirements will not undergo any change. The fire requirements will be the same as applicable inside. It depends upon the occupancy. It depends on the height of the building and the degree of development. The requirements of firefight will not change because it comes under CRZ. Only thing in CRZ, your additional requirements from the point of view of the flooding, sea erosion, storm surges, flooding, and other related things, which will cover the one. That's what happened in Kerala. All those 5 Maradu floods had to be brought down, even though structurally it will stand for a long time. Fire, it will stand for a long time. They failed from the environment point of view because of CRZ. Next, please.
Sir, we'll take only 3 questions because we are almost now reaching 1:15 p.m. So there are another 45 questions. Those who we are not able to answer, you can email me. I have given already my email ID, dominic@blueandgrey.in. You can send. So our speaker will try to answer separately. So I will pick only the next 3 questions. This question is from Vinod Kumar Singh. During fire emergency, should we close all doors to slow the spread of fire?
Yes, it is a protocol. So it is expected that fire should contain in the origin compartment itself, and whatever detection and separation systems made available in that particular compartment will come in action, and it will contain that fire in that particular pocket. So it is expected that all doors along the travel line shall be closed so that the spread of fire can be limited.
So next question is Srinivas Vanela is asking how the height of the building is calculated in industrial building up to eaves and ridge.
No, the height is calculated in the same manner, that is highest livable area, and but there are some structures which are distillation columns in petrochemical industries which goes beyond 30 meters or 40 meters also. So it is a process requirement. It is not a human occupancy area. No human occupies that particular place for the working. So as far as these restrictions are provided in National Building Code related to industrial building, they are related to the working areas of the person and not related to the activity of the industry. Industry may have the height beyond 15 meters, but it should be ensured that no human occupancy shall work beyond that limitations. So they should work below that. And if they are provided sufficient fire protection systems, we can approve such kind of activities.
Sir, there is a question or a recommendation from Mr. Ashok Mala from London.
London.
From London, sir. Is there any government fire laboratory in India who can do assessment-based fire certification of fire doors? We have 650 plus certificates from globally credible labs. However, if we need to repeat the same number of tests in India, it's wastage of time, money, and efforts. So, is asking?
The answer is yes. Answer is yes. Don't waste time. The answer is yes. If you got any of those particular international laboratories which are available, Underwriters Laboratory or the Building Research Station of UK or various other international authorities where testing facilities are there, FM, various, we'll be happy to take that. India's facilities are comparatively lower other than large facility of Central Building Research Institute in Roorkee available. There are some additional testing facilities are being created over there, including Fire Service College and various other places. So if it is available, we'll definitely go by those particular international certification available for any of the products or services or assembly which are already available.
Sir, the question from Dr. Gopal Mishra.
Yeah, go ahead. Guruji. Why should Guruji have a question?
Yeah, Dr. Mishra is asking, who should regulate the matters connected with open spaces of the building authority, the building authority or the fire authority?
Well, primarily it's a local body subject. That open space is also being utilized by the fire. Open space is not being utilized, but the space around the building and the movement, the vehicular movement of the building around under the spaces, the fire authority will have the control on that. But the other one, as rightly is a use for the light, ventilation, and the other related requirements which you have on the environment related issue. And that particular thing is normally the controlling authority is a local body. Controlling, I'm using. But otherwise, it belongs to the people and it belongs to the building owner. All the space around in the length, breadth, and height of the particular thing. The space which is required for the vehicular movement and other related one, as Santosh rightly clarified, even if you on podium, you require those facilities for that. There, the control aspects will come under the local body. Santosh, one more.
Yeah, correct. Yes, sir.
I will also clarify, like it's National Building Code is not a mandate; it's a regulatory body, and it's a guideline. So a lot of people asking, is it NBC need is a mandatory to follow? So Amit Kakkar is our regular participant, also well-known personality from Rajasthan, Jaipur, is asking, is there any provision of providing services in setback spaces for installation of electrical substation, DG sets, transformer, ETP, STP, fire and domestic tank, etc.?
No. If that is a requirement for, yeah, go ahead, Santosh, go ahead.
No, means as per the local bylaws, there are some requirements. They allow the underground water storage tanks and sewerage plants in the marginal open spaces. But the electricity ones, it is a requirement as per the Electricity Act and rules. They required from the external wall. But issue is you should have the clear circulation as far as fire safety is concerned from the building line to that particular service. So minimum 6 meters or 9 meters, whatever the clearance required for the circulation of fire vehicle, depending upon the height of the building, that should be clearly provided, and then you can have such type of activities. Some means development control rules do provide such kind of activity subject to limited square meter area, maybe up to say 40 square meter maximum you can have in the marginal open spaces or setback areas. that limitation is there. But it should not obstruct the free mobility of fire appliances.
That's the key. That's the key. The last point is the
Yes.
key. The movement of the vehicle should be unrestricted. Otherwise, you say I'm providing it, but I put this particular transformer on the particular thing or a generating set. That is
No,
the
it's
source of fire.
true.
Sir, though I wanted to close this because the very interesting questions from experts. I think they're also professionals in the industry. There are a lot of questions being asked. Prasanna is clarifying that driveway in Telangana is 9 meters and Karnataka allows only 6 and 8 meters. So it's just a clarification to
Simple.
our answer.
Both have to wake up. Both have to wake up. Both have to wake up. We can't do anything. What is required to be done, NBC provides. But if for some reason they decide to make the particularly only 8 meter in Karnataka, and they think people need not make the building safer in Karnataka, that is Karnataka's problem. People wake up at some point of time. When a few more buildings catch fire, some accidents take place, then they know why it has happened. Then they'll note that the provisions are a little lower. Then the rules will also undergo change. This is a dynamic process that's happening. NBC itself has gone from the 70 version to the 83 version, to the 2005 version, 2016 version. And it's a process. The building rules not necessarily will catch up with the same amount of speed. Some of the states are very progressive. They catch it up very fast then and there. Instead of this, they are even a standing order where even though they make a provision of only the 2005 version, as and when the latest version applies, the rules itself will indicate that the latest NBC version will apply on that, even though it would have been formulated earlier. All that is required is these are all internal local decisions done. They should have their own justification possible. But when pressure comes from the builders, developers, architects, consultants, they bring this particular thing over there. States also over a period undergo change. There are conferences where all the chief fire officers make NBC conference are there, where we talk and which, for example, Gopalji is just now talked to us. There's such people of authority who has got knowledge level. Why, if you're able to explain why a provision is put the same way it is put over there, background behind that clause over there, then people understand that. It is not written women fancy of some code writers over there. They are thought through the particular one in very minute detail, then changes are made accordingly on that. And comments do come. Large number of comments do come. For example, 2016 version of the National Building Code, because it is becoming increasingly mandatory, every line is read by everybody. So we have a lot of comments coming. That particular panel dealing with that P2 panel, I'm a member also on that, Santosh is a member, Gopalji is a member. So we go through those particular clauses regularly to keep a track what amendments to be brought over there or changes to be brought over there. It may not be a whole revision of NBC, at least that part can have some amendment being brought over also. That is a limited answer I can give.
So the question to you, sir, Mr. Suresh, please advise the question from Pritish Doshi. Please advise the applicability of the various construction categories such as type 1, type 2, type 3, and type 4. Where can I have type 1 construction and where type 2 and likewise?
Already given part 4. Please read part 4. Already, Santoshji already clarified that in the beginning.
All
itself.
high-rise buildings and potential risk buildings shall be constructed out of type 1 or type 2 construction.
Type 2. That means
Okay.
the fire resistance rating that's coming for the column, beam, slab, floor, everything. You can have a timber structure with only 1 hour fire resistance over there. You require right type of fire resistance to come on this particular one.
So Ishwar Iyer is recommending you, sir, Suresh sir and Santosh Warik, fire department have rapidly expanded the use of drones as more communities have realized the life-saving impact that aerial technology can have in response to structural fire. Will NBC address this in upcoming issues? You just
Yes, answer is yes. Loud
Very
yes.
good. That's a good news. Good news.
Yeah.
Now NBC is applicable to NBC. Now, how is NBC applicable to modification or expansion of existing building?
Yeah, that's a very, very nice question. Would you like to answer, or shall I finish off?
Yeah, every law is prospective and it cannot be implemented retrospectively. So
Yeah.
whatever the buildings are came up before the implementation of any act or any rule, so they are protected. So it is their right. So whatever means, if somebody is coming up in means maternity home or hospital in ground plus or 1-story building in a residential complex, then you cannot have the 2-meter width of the passages and the staircase. So it is a main occupancy is residential one, and below any commercial complex is there or ground plus one activity is there. There they are having this hospital up to 10-12 beds. So
Yeah,
you cannot change any structural part, but at least minimum protection like manual call points, then detection systems, these additional layers you can provide, which will ensure that there will be proper alarm and detection in case of any emergency, and the sprinklers or will get activated, and you can have the proper compartmentation. So whatever the new features are there, that it is a applied science actually. So what is the potential risk and how you can safeguard that in case of modifications. Normally, these are the cases coming up in the existing building. You do modification. If you wanted to have the office building is there, you wanted to have a server room. So the server room will build battery protection, then server rack protection, total flooding system is required, detection system required. So these are the additional layers. They are provided in the code. So you have to apply those to that particular activity.
I think he is spot on the answer. Only one thing we can add is that is where important clause will come. If for any reason, if the authority having jurisdiction, including the fire authority, that's one having jurisdiction, determines that this particular building with the present particular way it is there, the age of the building, it can be structural, it can be due to bad maintenance of the building or structural deficiency or decay, obsolescence, whatever be the reason which are there. If they and it's also not safe structurally or from fire safety point of view, if the occupancy of the people are dangerous over there, they can declare the building unsafe. So there's a clause in part 2 of the National Building Code of how do you do in existing buildings over there. All provision cannot be applicable. So therefore, the authority can ask the owner or builder, you want to do the particular thing? Yes, do the structural fitting or retrofitting or various other things, including additional facilities we added, etc. Especially with a too taller building, no second staircase is not there. What are the ways by which the second staircase can be added? Outside, can you do it or whatever? So there are various states have done that particular thing. So the direct answer is existing building, the new provisions will not apply. However, if existing buildings are shown to be an unsafe building due to various reasons, the authorities can ask certain amount of improvements or suggestions or retrofitting to be done to strengthen and make the building safer. But in any case, all these over a period of time, because land cost has become more, they won't have, because a low-story building, they themselves come for a complete demolition or reconstruction. Then the new rules will come. Okay.
Sir, the questions are growing. It seems that we need to have a separate webinar to take only questions on NBC, part 4. It's growing. I think.
How can we take only question session? How can we do a question session? You should have a presentation done so brilliantly. Santosh has done, or Gopalji has done.
I was thinking that after 2 hours, people will drop. Nobody seems to be dropping out, so everybody is paying a lot of attention on this NBC subject.
Very good.
I think
we are giving responses. We are giving spontaneous responses without any doubt in our mind.
I think I will have Gopal and you and everybody on the panel and invite question 1 week before and show that because it's not ending. I thought I'll close. Question will reduce, but it is increasing, which means people are quite keen, to practicing life safety.
Let me tell you, we are given more than we stopped at 12:15. We have 1 hour and 15 minutes. We have been giving responses. Nobody gives such opportunity for giving Q&A. I am also participating literally so many webinars over there. If you are able to cover more than 3 questions or 4 questions or 5 questions, you must have covered at least around 40 questions already so far. I did not know the number.
I think this one last question, sir, last question of the day. This is the question by building number 22. His designated his name is building number 22. Is a very interesting question. can we extend balcony in 4.5 meters open space, so open space around building?
No, it's also even that's indicated. That also is indicated in part 3 up to what particular width you can have the balcony widths coming over there at higher heights. That's already indicated there. Limitations are there. You can't take it across like a whole cantilever slab to cover the whole vertical, because that
Yeah.
vertical space might be the one for you to do it. That question rightly asked by who is the owner of the particular thing, the local body or the fire people, answer will come there. So you can't open it in such a way that that space is not available for you to have your hoses to come or fighting the fire trajectory to come over there. Santosh, you want to add?
Yes, yes, that very true. You cannot have balconies beyond certain line. Depending upon the building height, you should have that space from your plot boundary to the any of the projections. That should be minimum 4.5 is clear for the up to 15 meters, and beyond 15 meters, 6 meters are required for carrying out external firefighting and rescue operations. So you
Very
cannot
good.
have
Yeah.
encroachment in
I
that
think
particular space.
part three already covers that. I think Dominic, I was just seeing the questions where I keep on reading the chat and all that. Many people want our email ID. Please share the email ID of
Yeah, sure, sir. I
Santosh
am.
Warik and V Suresh. Please give it to them. Okay.
Yeah,
When you YouTube when you're going to give the whole document, today is coming or tomorrow you're going to do it.
I'll be doing it on Monday, sir.
Monday. Please
Yeah.
indicate the email IDs also. I find about 8 of them have asked our
So
contact.
one comment I read about both of you. One is saying Mr. V. Suresh is a knowledge bomb on NBC. Okay, knowledge bomb on structural. Any chapter is a knowledge bomb. And Santosh Warik, he says wonderful. The presentation to the point and very informative. It's coming from very senior people from the fraternity. It's not coming from.
Let us thank all the people. Very good, because we have been working in this sector for the last 55 years, right from the first version down to this. We have gone into the minute detail. Therefore, we are able to clarify with confidence and clarity. That's the reason. And Santosh ji has been there. If he has made a wonderful presentation like that, but not very rarely that, I think to my knowledge, having been the sector, part 3 being covered by a chief fire officer has rarely happened, but he has done it. It has happened today, and he has done it with amazing clarity and detail, and covered it beautifully. And what he has also linked that requirement with the part 4 requirement. And anybody who wants to implement part 4 should equally be aware of it. Even for the fire authorities, people should know part 3 requirements.
No, we'll do dedicated NBC part 4. In that, we'll take more questions than, we'll have a very restricted time on the presentation. We will take very soon, maybe in October mid, we will invite the experts again to, because look like NBC part 4 not in webinar, not covered in detail. So we'll open a session on NBC part 4 for all our friends who are quite keen, and they are still sticking on. We have 143 members. I would like to thank Mr. Suresh wholeheartedly. There was miscommunication that we already.
Forget it. Please proceed. Please proceed.
And
Thank you.
anytime, he's on board to us. And I'm sure October month we will meet again with all these key speakers, and we look forward for your continuous participation in the knowledge series. This is the knowledge series, non-profit seminars. There is no intention of any commercial business in this knowledge series that we're conducting. I thank all the participants for coming forward and motivating me to conduct more and more. And I will continue this as long as I will have a stamina to conduct this. So thank you very much. You have a wonderful day. Stay safe. Stay home. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you once again. And we look forward to see you next week with Mr. Ashok Menon as a keynote speaker on strategic evacuation. And the speaker is wonderful young Roy S. Fernandez from Jensen News, Dubai. I look forward for you to register and see you soon. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful day, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dominic.
Thank you, Santosh ji. Thank you, Dominic.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Great.
well, 50 questions. So before we close, I think we test still 50 questions to be unanswered. So I will post you.
Please share the questions now. You share the
Yeah,
questions.
I will share this question, sir.
Most of them will be repeat. I think we have covered broadly all the this thing on that. For example, somebody has asked a question over there. Local fire brigade people are asking this particular equipment we bought or something like that. What the answer to that person should be that what they should do is not which company. They should indicate what should be the specification of what is the technology to be used over there. Smoke detector or heat detector or any detector or extinguisher. Then whomsoever are the manufacturers, they will take a call on that. So the answer should be that. One or two people asked that question. I could find that.
Okay, sir. I will share your email ID in the question box also.
You kindly, if you don't mind, we have answered about 40 or 50 questions. We know the answer on that. If some of them are also repeat, please don't send it. And if you already given an answer on that, if there are new questions which are not covered over there, only those things you bring it out so that we have also got very limited time. For example, today, now right from 11 o'clock to 1:30 is now roughly, we are getting into roughly 2.5 hours. We have been on the checking in another 15 minutes earlier. So we should have the time to deal with that. I'm getting into another program at 2 o'clock. I was coming a program earlier from 10 to 10:30 of the CA. You're aware of that. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
You do a little clearance. Don't send all the questions straight away. You also do a little bit of screening and then send it only what is relevant. You also, by the way, know which is important. Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, Santosh, you did very well. Huh? Thank you.